Have you been hurt before? Did you ever in your life feel like this is a situation or this is a thing that I'm just not feeling good about and it's hurting you? If you have been hurt in the past or if you're hurting today, then this episode is for you. Today, we're going to talk about hurt, and I'm going to help you understand how to process your hurt. Welcome back to Beyond Therapy with Ritu. I'm your host, Ritu Nilofer. I'm a clinical psychologist, and today's episode is pretty close to my heart because one of the most common questions that I get asked as a therapist is, how do you A, manage your emotions? B, I feel hurt. What is it that I can do about it? Or another thing that I've been asked quite often is, my friend is hurt and I don't know how to help him. If you also have had any of these questions, then keep listening to this episode. And today we're going to talk about getting hurt the right way. And I'm going to use the word right here because, I'm not a fan of right, wrong, should, shouldn't. But today I will definitely use the word right way because there are ways in which we can process our emotions that end up hurting us even more in the long run and that result in mental health conditions. So that is why I'm going to help you learn some right ways of processing your hurt today. So, hurt could be caused by any situation. It could be a breakup that you're going through, it could be a friendship, it could be a career trajectory that you're not able to figure out or is not going according to the way you'd like. Any of these situations can cause hurt. And it could also sometimes be things that you've gone through in childhood that are hurting you today as an adult. Hurt could be caused by many things, but all of it could be processed in a few right ways. Now, hurt. The first thing that I need to understand when I'm saying hurt, we're using this word quite a lot, right? By hurt, I mean that feeling that you feel. Now, how do I understand this feeling? It gets manifested in three ways. One is physically, that if you ever notice, sometimes when we are sad, we feel this some amount of heaviness in your chest. We feel a little bit of pain, and we feel a lot of symptoms in our body. We feel a little distracted. We feel heavy in your head. You have a headache. So all of these are manifestations, physical manifestations of hurt. And coming to emotional manifestations is, you're feeling sad. There is this feeling which is slightly persistent that comes up every now and then. And then there are psychological symptoms where you have thoughts about that particular situation. We constantly think about it. There is an aspect of overthinking, and then asking ourselves, did this happen? Why did this happen? How can I change it? And stuff like that. Mostly the why questions pop up. Why? So all of these things together constitute hurt. So, if I have to ask you, the first way of processing your hurt would be recognizing how it is coming up in your life. And this is something that we often don't pay much attention to. But the more attention you pay to your hurt, the more easier it gets to process it. Now, don't get me wrong, we don't want to easily process pain. Nothing about this process might feel easy. But the easy or difficulty of it is not our focus here. The idea is to process it right. And I'll tell you why that matters. Because imagine, let me tell you a little case that I've seen in my clinical practice. And this is something maybe a lot of us will relate to. As kids, if you have ever been bullied in your school, then sometimes we forget those things, obviously, and we move on. But sometimes those ideas and those comments remain in ourselves. For example, if someone was fat shamed as a child, and they felt this need to be a certain way, to be liked, to be socially accepted, that is something that they felt as a child. And if that hurt was not processed, if they could not talk it out, if the parents could not tell them, or sometimes we as children might have not shared it, or people didn't understand how to address that kind of a hurt, then most often than not, that same thing is going to pop up as an adult, which is, you will start feeling conscious of your weight even as an adult, to wear something, to have a particular angle in the camera, all of these different areas where we start feeling conscious about how you're looking could manifest from that hurt that was not processed properly. So it's that important to process hurt, because it will remain in some or the other form, in the form of a thought, in the form of a belief. In fact, thoughts, the more they remain, there is a very good possibility that it turns into a belief. It becomes something that's a core aspect of my functioning, which is now every time I'm out, I'm constantly going to be thinking how I'm looking. Every time I go shopping, I'm going to be very conscious. I might not be able to wear things that I'd like to wear, eat things that I'd like to eat. So it occupies more aspects of my life. Now the hurt that could have been processed at one point is occupying many aspects of my personality, my lifestyle, and can determine how I function and how good I feel. Right? These things that I think, if I'm conscious about my body, I don't think I'm going to feel good about myself. And that's going to create a lot of stress. So we will go through all of that because that one unprocessed hurt. Now, this is a very small and a simple example, but imagine this even in your relationships. For example, if there was a bad breakup, there was some sort of a toxic relationship, something that you didn't like in the relationship, it did not set you right, then anything that you've experienced in that relationship can create a really bad experience for future, which is I might be really conscious in the future relationships, or I might judge that, oh, all of the relationships like this only, I don't think I should be with anyone. And these kinds of conclusions come if you have any of these thoughts, or if you know people who think or say things like this, it is because there was some hurt, some emotion that could not be processed the right way, that was not processed in a healthier way. And it remained like a fear of what if it happens again. So I'm going to prevent myself from going into relationships altogether so that I don't feel it. If you're not aware of this, I'd like you to take a minute, pause this episode, and think about the different things that you tell yourself, the different stories that are there in your mind about things that can help you understand where it's come from, which hurt was unprocessed. Needless to say, all of these thoughts, anything that creates this kind of distress, is going to eventually create mental health conditions or mental health concerns. We might feel a lot more anxiety in certain situations. We might end up, feeling very low, which could lead to depression. These traumas, if not processed properly as a kid when we grew up, those could be processed and could end up giving us an extreme amount of anxiety in the form of a post traumatic stress disorder. So, all of these things can be the resultant of an unprocessed or an unhealthily processed hurt. That is the power of your hurt. Are you listening to this? I mean, even as a psychologist and therapist, the more people I see, the more it fascinates me that this idea of only attending to your emotions in a healthy way can change the course of a lot of things in life. There is so much power in the hurt that you feel, and there is more power in how you process it. It's just that the latter is something that we are not tapping on. And that is the one that we're going to talk about right now. Before we get to talking about how to process your emotions, let's understand one more very important part, which is why is this important? Of course, we discuss that it's important so that it doesn't cause any concerns, but it is also important to help us grow and navigate through situations of life in a way that serves us, in a way that builds resilience. Now, resilience is a fantastic concept. It is this ability that we all can have, that we all have when we get out of these situations or when we process hurt. That's the ability to learn from it. That's the ability to grow through it. I don't know if you've heard this. Don't just go through your pain, but grow through your pain. That growth through your pain can only happen when we process and attend to our hurt. So, if you are someone who wants to process your hurt and you want to grow through your pain, then keep listening. So, let's talk about how to process emotions. What is the right way? When I say that this is something that's going to help me, I'm going to give you a step by step guide for this. The very first thing that we can do is sit with your pain. That is, you can physically sit with your pain in an empty room, sit with your journal, write things down. You could write down, talk about how this hurt is feeling. What is it about? and where all is it manifesting in my life. Get mindful of it. The things that we spoke about in the beginning, the physical, emotional, psychological manifestations of hurt, really get mindful of it and recognize where exactly is my hurt coming from, and accept that I'm hurt. You're hurt, and that's completely okay to be hurt. I mean, it's impossible to never get hurt, right? So, if the only way of living life is to get hurt and bounce back from it, then let's understand and learn to accept that hurt is a normal part of life. And it is hurt that helps us grow. I give this analogy when I talk about pain to my clients and patients, where I mention to them a seedling. Imagine a seedling growing in a small pot. It is starting to grow. Now it's starting to have more branches. What is it going to do? It's going to need a lot more space. It is going to grow out of the pot. And if it's a clay pot, most often than not, it's going to crack that pot and the roots are going to come out of it. So now have this visualization in your head. Imagine I'm not repotting it, which is I'm not changing the seedling into a bigger pot so that it could grow. Instead, I'm letting it be. So if I let it be, what is going to happen is as time goes, the roots are going to dry out, the branches are going to dry out because now there's no more space for it to occupy. So it is going to die. It's not going to grow. So, sitting with your emotions of hurt and not letting them get processed or not giving them space could be like that. It could result in this extreme space of suffocation, an extreme space of constrictedness, where growth is something that is not possible to happen because there is no space for it anymore. So, what will happen is the other way, which is we might seize, we might go into these manifestations of anxiety, depression, and all other emotional conditions. Now imagine I did repot the seedling into a bigger planter so that it has more space. So, what is going to happen in the first few days? Yes, it has more space, but is it instantly going to accept the new planter? Probably not. Plants also take time to adapt. So it's going to dry out again a little bit. It's not going to feel that good. It's going to probably wither out a few leaves. And then eventually, the more time you give it, the more space it starts occupying, the more it starts breathing, the more it starts living. And now it gets more adapted to this bigger pot and starts to grow. So, this is a good way of understanding that growth could look difficult, could feel different, could feel like the space that is hurting, but there is very good possibility that that hurt is existing for us to grow. So think of this the next time you're facing hurt. I know it feels difficult. I know it feels like sometimes it feels like no one understands us because fair enough, I'm a therapist and I can listen to you, I can understand you, but the pain that you're going through is yours, and what you're feeling within your body, within your mind, is you. And no matter how much I say that I understand, I do know that it is something that you're having to go through, and I empathize with it. But I can tell you this, that there is a way to growing through it, and sometimes going through these kinds of planting sessions, if you can think about it that way, is crucial for us to have more space to grow as an individual in life. So try to think of this example every time you're feeling like the hurt feels too much. Now, when we're sitting with our emotions, okay, we've had this acceptance of, okay, this is my hurt, this is what it's making me feel. The very second thing that we can do is label our emotions, the emotions that we're feeling. What is it that I'm feeling? I'm feeling hurt, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling angry. What are these different emotions that I'm feeling? Labeling them will help me in increasing my awareness about what I am going through. So I can say something like this: I feel angry about this. I feel sad about this. Now, let us be more mindful here. It is very possible to use statements like, I feel like nothing is happening. I feel like this is the end of the world, or I feel like everyone's against me. Now, we're not looking at I feel like statements, because I feel like is not an emotion focused statement. It is a statement that emphasizes these thoughts that may or may not be assumptions, that may or may not be realities. So, make sure that you are using I statements as and making them as emotion focused as possible. So it is, I feel angry. I feel sad. And I know this sounds so simple, but the moment you start addressing things like this, it gets slightly more simple because your emotion is simple. It is something making you feel this. But the thoughts could be numerous. And the first thing we're going to do is address our emotions and not get into our thoughts. Once you have recognized your I feel this, I feel that, we're going to now listen and get more curious. All right, I feel sad. All right, this makes me angry. I feel angry. I want to get more curious about what about it is making me angry? What about it is making me sad? And this is where now I'm going to talk about my thoughts, the thoughts that I was not looking at first. I'm going to write all of this down. Writing things down is always a great way of going about it because I tell it's like unloading your brain. And that helps us process things a lot better. So write things down and tell yourself what are the things that this is, making me feel, or and then this feeling that I have, what is it about? Where is it coming from? And what am I thinking about it? Here is where you will tell yourself all the stories that you're telling yourself, and you're going to sit with them again. Judgmental about myself or mean, and telling myself, why are you even hurt for this, or wow, if you would have not done this aise nahi hota, and being constantly critical is not going to help me. So it's very important that you provide yourself a compassionate space the way you would provide to a friend. Imagine that a friend came to you talking about their hurt. We're not going to be very mean, we're not going to be judgmental, but the first focus would be to listen to them. So I urge you to do exactly that with yourself. Now, doing all of this could create a lot more emotions. It could create a lot more feelings in your mind. It could be uncomfortable. Sitting with your emotions is not easy, and it can get a little tough. So, if that happens, I'd like you to focus on your breath, focus on your body, come back to the present, focus on expanding your awareness to all the different parts of your body, your breath, how you're breathing, and just take deeper breaths. What this can do is it can help you calm yourself down a little bit so that that rush of emotions that you're feeling can come down. And that being in that rush is not going to help us think about it in a good way. And we don't need to think about it at that time. The only thing we can do is let it pass, let it get processed, and ground yourself. You can be present with your emotions and just tell your emotions, you can stay here for as long as you need, but I'm not letting you hold me. I'm not letting you overpower me. Even having this kind of a statement, and it sounds ridiculous, I know, when you start talking to your emotions, but a simple thing like that, when you tell yourself, it is so powerful that whatever you're feeling is going to slightly feel more manageable, because this means that you're providing your emotions the space. You're allowing it to be there, but not letting it overpower you. Now, when I'm talking about emotion processing, it's very important that I talk about a few techniques of regulating your emotions. Because when we go through a lot of emotions, most often than not, choosing the healthier way might not come very naturally to us until it is something that we practice on a daily basis. If those are things that are not coming naturally to us, then there will be some unhealthy patterns like suppressing emotions and pushing them away. It could be completely avoiding that topic or that person, and maybe seeking drugs, alcohol, any sort of substance use, or internet addiction, any sort of other methods of not addressing the emotion but running away from it. And in worst case scenarios, sometimes it could also lead to extreme self harm. So, in those kinds of cases where processing becomes a challenge, the first thing we can do is practice distress tolerance, which is this particular exercise of calming your emotional brain down. Now, emotional brain is your downstairs of the brain. We call the up one upstairs, down one downstairs. So downstairs of the brain, the limbic system, is responsible for a lot of our emotions. And when that gets really activated, really heightened, our reasoning goes out of the picture, and it gets very difficult to make the healthier decisions that we want to make for our emotions, for managing them in the right way. So we want to get that down. And it is when that is very active is when we seek pleasures, when we seek distractions like smoking, hurting yourself, and in some worst cases, suicide. So we want to really get this downstairs in control. And the first thing you can do is ground it. We need to calm our limbic system down. The downstairs of the brain needs to come down. And only then we will not go into these unhealthy coping methods. So, how can we do that? A very interesting study in UCLA had shown that when you talk to someone about your emotions, it interferes with the functioning of amygdala. And amygdala is a part of the downstairs of your brain, the limbic system. And the more interfered the function gets, the more it calms down. So that is why whenever you are a little hurt or you feel not okay, when you talk to a friend, you start feeling slightly better. That's because of this. Similarly, another thing that can uh, help us calm ourselves down, ground that part of your brain, is deep breathing. Breathing exercises of any kind, specifically the ones that are slow, deep, like the 4-7-8, where you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold your breath for 7 seconds, and then you exhale through your mouth for 8 seconds. These are simple activities that can help us again reduce the overactivity in this part of your brain so that the emotions don't get very overwhelming. And now, if I get this part a little more calmed down, then the chances of me getting into an unhealthy habit of hurting myself or getting into substances or any other way, suppression, literally, whatever it is that I'm doing to not process it in the right way, the urge to it will be there, but the chances that I will give into it reduces. And we need that gap. We need that reduction in chances of me getting into an unhealthy habit. The last thing you can do, and of course, there are so many things that you can do, but the last one that I will talk about in this episode is you can practice changing the temperature of your body. A very easier way is holding ice cubes in your hand if your emotions are too extreme, if you feel like hurting yourself or getting into any of these things that we spoke about. You can hold your ice, change the temperature of your body, go take a cold shower, splash your face with cold water, instantly gets that activation slightly down, and it helps you ground. So these are some things that you can do to manage your emotions. And after we're done with that overwhelming sensation, at some point when you feel like you're ready, you can sit with your emotions and do the things that we spoke about. Uh, of course, doing it under the supervision of a therapist personally to your hurt is a great way to go about it, is a right way to go about it. So seek therapy for any hurt that you feel like you're not able to process on your own and you need personalized guidance for. If you've ever wondered how to help your friend who's hurt, if you've ever wondered how to help someone else who's hurt, then keep listening. The first thing you can do is let them know that you are here and that you're listening. Make them have your attention. By doing that one thing alone, we can change so much of how they're feeling. Attend to them. The second thing is listen, try to understand, and let them have the space to emote, let them have the space to have their emotions without jumping in before you give in your opinion or your understanding of it. Let them have their entire space to express however they're feeling, whatever they're feeling, non-judgmentally, compassionately. Now, once you have said that I'm here listening, this is your space, then at some point when you feel like they're ready, tell them that you're there to help. I'm here to help you, and let me know how I can help you. What do you need from me? These are questions that you can ask your friend or whoever that is you're talking to help them. So that is our hurt. And processing your hurt the right way is very important. It is important for you to grow and heal and to build resilience. And not just all of that, but it is truly very important for us to move ahead in life and achieve our potential as well. I appreciate you listening. I hope you could take something from this. And the next time you're hurt, you could mindfully process it. Let us live mindfully and build a community of support and figure out how to utilize the potential of our mind better. Our goal is to create a safe and supportive space for exploring mental health topics and fostering personal growth. Please remember that the information shared here is for informational purposes only and should not be considered a substitute for professional advice or treatment. If you're experiencing mental health concerns, please seek the guidance of a qualified mental health professional. We are committed to providing accurate and helpful information. However, it is important to approach this content with an open and mindful attitude. What works for one person may not work for another, and it's essential to tailor self-care strategies to your individual needs. We value the privacy and well-being of our listeners and the guests on the podcast. Any personal information shared on this podcast will be treated with confidentiality. We encourage open and respectful dialogue, and we aim to create a supportive and non-judgmental environment for all. Thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery and well-being. Let's approach each episode with curiosity, compassion, and a mindful intention to learn and grow.